In this video, I'm going to talk about why your gear is so important for stock photography. I also asked ChatGPT to give me a quick rundown, and I'm actually not very impressed with what it said because it really focused on the equipment and not on the experience, because I don't know how ChatGPT would have experience. In photography in general, your gear is not important. Photography is an art form. Is a way to capture light and shadows and composition and colors, tones, and all these things. Your gear is not important when we're talking strictly photography. Stock photography is different because advertisers are using these images. They want the best of the best. They want clear, crisp, sharp images with good tones, with good color, not a cell phone picture. And now I know a lot of people have said in multiple videos that you could start stock photography with a cell phone, you can use a point and shoot, any camera works, and you can start making money with any photo. Yes, you can. I've done it before, but they're rare sales. They have to be very specific and unique images. You can do it, but this is not how you're gonna make real money with stock photography. And the reason is you're selling something. You need good quality images to be able to promote products or to promote articles. Now let me tell you my story. I started stock photography in 2010, around there, so almost 13 years ago. And I went to Walmart and I bought the most expensive camera I'd ever owned. It was a Rebel T1i with the kit lens. It was like $900. I had no idea how to use it. I didn't know anything about cameras. I just thought it was expensive. It has to be good. So for months, I watched YouTube videos. I learned how to use the camera, how to go from automatic mode to manual mode, TV mode, AV mode. I learned all these settings. I was learning how to use this camera the best I could. Once I learned how to use this camera, I was submitting to stock websites. Started with Shutterstock. It took me 6 months to get accepted into Shutterstock. All of the other ones, I had pictures online, but nothing was selling. And then one day I borrowed a friend's camera. She had the 5D Mark II. The camera immediately felt differently, and I could tell a big difference in the image quality. Part of that was the lens. The 18 to 55 is not the sharpest and best lens when it comes to digital cameras. She had the 24 to 105L on the 5D Mark II, and that was, even though it's not the best lens, it was noticeably different. The bokeh, the background, the sharpness, the crispness, and the color captured by the camera was a lot different than the one on the Rebel. After I borrowed that camera, I got accepted into Shutterstock. Instead of having a 90% rejection rate, I had a 90% acceptance rate because of the camera. It was still me taking pictures of the same subjects. The only difference was the camera. There is a big difference in the image quality. A manufacturer like Canon is not going to put the same capabilities in a $1,000 camera that they are on a $6,000 camera. They're just not going to put the same elements into that build. It wouldn't be cost effective as a business. Now, to add insult to injury, I told you I spent hundreds if not thousands of hours learning how to use the camera. My friend, they had the 5D Mark II, was also doing stock, and some of her best sellers were taking an automatic, because for the first 2 years of having the camera, she never took it off of auto mode. Every photo was automatic. Best sellers. I can't. I went out and bought a 50mm 1.4, somewhere in between $300, and I did notice a difference when I used that on the Rebel. I still wasn't getting a lot of images accepted, so I was using that lens on the 5D Mark II, and more photos started getting accepted. And I was like, okay, what? Something's going on. So eventually I bought the original Canon 7D, and then 90% of my photos got accepted. Now the 7D was not a pro camera, it's a semi-pro model. It came out around the same time as the 5D Mark II, and it was less expensive because it was a crop sensor. Now I did notice a big difference from the Rebel and the 7D. Something else that ChatGPT missed here, all it focused was on megapixels, on raw images, how to capture the image. And yes, more expensive cameras are gonna capture more dynamic range. A better lens is gonna give you that edge, but it totally missed on functionality. Now let me show you something. I know this doesn't sound like much, but after you've used a small camera for a few years, look at where the tripod mount is. If I want to change the battery, it won't open. So I had to completely remove the tripod mount. I know this doesn't sound like much, but if we're replacing the battery multiple times a day, this gets a little annoying. Changing the memory card, it's in the same spot, so we have to undo everything to change the memory card. I know this is not a lot, but after doing it over and over again, sometimes, in my experience, I missed a shot. I'll go out, I'll look, memory card low, I'll be like, no, I'll wait. I'll get a better shot later, and then the shot never comes. Just because the gear doesn't have that flow, now I'm missing opportunities because I'm too lazy to change this. And that's the reason, I'm too lazy to change this. But it's a flow, it's a workflow that's missing. And that is something that this camera doesn't have, because the mounting port is here, and the memory card is the battery is way over here. The memory card is in another port. So I don't have that with the larger camera. This is just part of the workflow. It's part of what makes this camera easier and more user-friendly. Now, yes, small compact cameras have their advantages, but when we're talking about stock photography, this is more of a disadvantage than an advantage. The point I'm trying to make is that, yes, you can start with a cell phone, you can start with a small camera. This is, photography is photography. But when it comes down to selling those images, the better quality that image is going to be, the more chances you're going to have of selling it. I don't know if you watched the video I made about the $6,000 photo in Dreamstime. Dreamstime is an agency I've been with for a few years, and they have 200 million images from 1 million contributors. This means the average person has 200 images with them. I have over 16,000. So there's some people that go out with the Rebel, take 100 pictures, 10 get accepted, and then they quit. And that's not what I want you to do. If you're interested in stock photography, don't quit before you actually give it a fair chance. And I know some of these cameras are expensive. I'm talking about a $3,000 camera as opposed to a $1,000 camera, but there's options. I just found on the internet, I used 5D Mark III, a Canon 5D Mark III, and all the other ones had the same Nikon, Fuji, Sony. They have very similar bodies at the same price. I used 5D Mark III for $500. I still know to this day in 2023, I know professional photographers that are still shooting with the 5D Mark III. It's a fantastic camera, and you can buy it used for $500. There's a lot of options out there that are way better quality than a Rebel. I'm not putting down the Rebels. I think they're great cameras. I learned with the Rebel. I'm just saying that for stock photography, they're not going to be your best shot. They're not going to give you the same image quality. There's just no way that a manufacturer is going to put the same elements on this camera as they are on this one. If you ever tried digging an in-ground swimming pool using a shovel, you know how difficult it is. You're going to start digging, and after a day or two, you're going to quit. It's the same thing with this camera. You're going to start taking pictures. 90% are going to get rejected. You're going to spend hours editing and processing those photos to make them look best, and they're still going to get rejected. If you have a backhoe, you're going to dig that swimming pool a lot faster, and you're going to have to do less work in post or by hand to get those photos accepted and sold. I'm not saying that a better camera is going to make you a better photographer. No, you still need the eye. You still got to shoot an interesting subject. And in today's saturated market for stock, you still need to shoot unique images. But this is going to give you the edge over this. This is going to make you quit before you give it a fair chance. Just like we've seen with Dreamstime, 200 images per contributor is not a lot. So what is happening that all these people are quitting before it's their time? I guarantee it's the camera they're using or the gear they're using. ChatGPT gave me a few things, but it focused totally on the wrong things. It did say at the end that it is not the camera that makes a photographer. You need to know how to use the camera. But it made up cameras. It just left blanks and wanted me to fill in. It would have been a totally fake script, because it thinks that a cheap camera has less megapixels. That's not always the case. It says that a cheap camera does not always have RAW, which is not always the case. So ChatGPT just completely focused everything on the capabilities, assuming that an expensive camera has more features than a cheap camera. And that is, like I said, that is not always the case. It is becoming a saturated market. It's been saturated for years. but I continue to sell photos from years and years ago. So there's still options, there's still opportunity up there. And one of the biggest things is the quality of those images. A lot of us are getting photos rejected and we don't know why. Sometimes I wonder if there's an algorithm that if the photo comes from this camera, it just automatically gets rejected. And if it comes from a camera like this, then it goes to a selection process. It could be, I don't know. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.